quick 30 minutes of later than early morning cardio, followed by 15 minutes in the sauna, and then I can come back and get the real part of this day started. Get some food in me before arms later tonight. But before any actual chatting, there's a reasonably viral TikTok clip where it's a guy totally mouthing off to this streamer girl that's getting a pretty good amount of traction. And he's got a Sam Sulik username. I didn't think I'd have to clear it up because it really, like, that's the only thing that connects me to it. But no, that is in fact not me. If you were curious. But plan for today: maintain my 3,000-ish, 2,800 calorie deficit. So what I mean by that is don't exceed that calorie intake. And then honestly, the rest of it's kind of just make sure I train hard. The dieting phase is much easier because instead of now trying to, well, it's almost like the diet is still a side of things. It's not like I'm now not putting any effort into it at all, because I do have to eat like a specific amount of stuff, but it's kind of an absence of effort, right? Because the difficulty of a real bulking phase, if you're trying to gain weight, is putting down a lot of food, right? Which, depending on your appetite level, as well as just how long you've been working out for, and like how experienced you are, it could be easier or harder. Frankly, for me, my bulking phases have gotten progressively more difficult, which it makes sense. I mean, the bigger and heavier you get, the harder it's going to be to keep getting bigger and heavier. But the dieting phase, a little easier for me, especially after 4 months jumping from 240 to 272. I mean, it's kind of, it's almost like I haven't even had to track my calories the last 2 weeks. Because for me to eat as much as I'm hungry for just puts me into a calorie deficit. So I think I'm beyond that point now. I'm starting to get a little bit hungrier. So I do have to make sure I kind of time my meals out well. So a good example of that is like if it's 3 o'clock and I've got 3,000 calories on my daily allotment, I probably wouldn't want to have eaten 2,700. Really, I'm only going to eat 300 more calories from 3 o'clock until I go to sleep. This doesn't make sense. That's where I think eating later in the day, or at least starting to eat later in the day, is usually a pretty good trick. Because then, instead of basically having to scrimp for calories for the last 8 hours or 4 hours before you go to sleep, and then having to go to sleep feeling hungry, the cupboard's right there. The kitchen is right there. All you got to do is stand up, walk into it, and then boom, you got as many snacks as you're fucking hungry for. Right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've probably just downed easily, well, I mean, I'm not saying like an insane amount, but like 300, 400 calories worth of anything, just standing there, not even making a meal, just like it'll happen that quick. I was about to say quick and fast, almost said quack. That quick, right? I mean, it's pretty easy to shoot yourself over your calorie deficit, especially if you're not, if you're doing it pretty close to, I mean, basically correct. You're only going to be eating less than 300 calories of your maintenance. So 300 calories, dude, that's a McDonald's single cheeseburger. Do you know how quickly that could disappear? You'd have to, honestly, you might need a high-speed camera if you put one of those on a table in front of me to go a frame by frame of like, it's not a lot. So that's where it's, you do got to be a little bit careful. If you've only got so much gas in the car that you get to use that day, maybe use cruise control and don't try to spin your tires out every stop sign, because you're just going to burn through it, and then shit, man, you're going to want to fill back up. So that's always been my thought process. If you can begin to kind of slow down, or at least have a consistent calorie intake throughout the day, it just makes it more easy to stay consistent. So what I mean by that is, let's say you wait until 10 o'clock to eat something, and you're going to go to bed at 10. Let's say you got a regular schedule. So that's 12 hours. If you want to, let's say your calorie deficit limit for that day is 2,400. Now, of course, that's like, a specific amount of carbs, fats, and proteins. But you get 2,400 calories for the whole day. So over the course of that 12-hour period when you're going to be eating food, you shouldn't really exceed more than 200 calories per hour. Because then if you do, you're going to catch yourself at a point where, okay, I had a really big breakfast, now I have to have a really small dinner to counteract it. So for me, it's always a bit easier to put most of my calories toward the end of the day rather than, basically slam them right in the beginning. Because I know I'm going to be hungry later. I mean, especially after training, after working out, and even just after being alive all day. I mean, your body wants to eat. So for me, it's at least reasonably easy to wait until like even 10 or noon for meal number one. Because now instead of like a really long eating window before I go to bed, it's only like noon to 9 or 10. So making it a little shorter so the food that I do get to eat when I'm eating can be a little bit bigger portioned. Because the last thing you want to do is have every meal you eat be so small that it doesn't even fill you up. But you don't want to eat so many calories either that you're eating at too fast of a pace. So it's this kind of give and take of like, okay, I want to be full. I want to eat enough food where I'm not hungry in 20 minutes. But I also want to stay under my deficit. I don't want to overeat. So it's kind of a situation of making sure the meals that you do eat do fill you up. Like add some vegetables, add some cream of or add some like cubed cauliflower rice, like just any little trick you can get to eat more physical food without so many extra calories. And then before you know it, you'll be down 4 pounds in not that long. I mean, 5 pounds in 2 months is insanely fucking feasible. Frankly, a pound a week is also pretty reasonable in if you're actually staying in a consistent deficit plus cardio plus your regular working out. I mean, a pound a week is definitely within reason for basically fucking anybody. So that's kind of my shtick there, right? But that's oh yeah. So I reference this a lot about how the pump, and I mean physically the pump when I'm bulked up is way different, and I kind of respond to it way differently when I've got 800 grams of carbs that day. Right now, before this arm day, I'm only gonna have like 200. So I'm not gonna be so full of I'm not gonna be so full of carbs and muscle glycogen and everything else, but I will be reasonably energized because I did eat enough food, right? I mean, I'm not just doing a multiple day fast or anything, but it does suffer a touch. But that's, I mean, like I just said a second ago, the give and take. Sure, your physical size of your, how pumped you end up getting may kind of dwindle a touch, but that's in exchange for the leanness, which you're going to gain slowly over time, which make, depending on your current position, that may be a little bit longer or closer in time, but still good to aim for it, I say. But I got a whole cardio session first, then come back, eat everything, and go slam some arms. So I guess we can probably just cut to that first set of probably a push down, I think. Almost started with rope extensions, but something I don't know. And I think half of it was like I just start almost every fucking tricep day with ropes, at least over the last couple. So let's swap it out for regular, even a little heavier single arm pushdowns. I'll go one more notch up to 130. Right side first, then just straight heavy sets of failure, maybe a few partial assisted reps, but start with something a little more hefty than a squeeze. And it's not because that's better, but I've been starting a lot of my tricep days with squeezing sets, so this is different. And I think different is better, at least to a degree with your training. One more. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. One more, one notch lighter though. That's getting a little heavy. And then after this, probably flip it to something more squeeze focused instead of more tension focused. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey. Okay. All right. Yeah. I think 3 of those is probably fucking perfect. Honestly, I wouldn't mind staying here, but I think I'm going to get more out of my tries if I switch to something new. Because I'm feeling a ton of stuff like this, but with a different movement and a different angle, it's, I mean, literally there's no other way it couldn't activate a different part of my tricep. The longest rest times right now, which I'm cool with. Oh man, okay. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, that was okay. I think actually dips are gonna feel a little better. So this machine's seatbelt, actually maybe, no, it doesn't clip. So I can't go insanely heavy, I'll just push myself off the seat. But I didn't even want to go heavy. This feels like good as a squeezing set. So less than half the stack, just a little less. And then I like having a little inward turn to my hands. So even though these are like neutral grip handles, I'm gonna flip my hands around here. It just helps me feel like I'm trying to fucking spread it and squeeze my triceps more. Like I'm a fucking, like I'm a garden mole trying to get through everything. That's not a tricep. Honestly, if you looked at a fucking, if you kind of had one of those dissected, looking at their anatomy, tricep game's probably nuts because it's all that separating motion. But enough of that. Let's get started. And I really am emphasizing the squeezing portion here. There we go. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Oh. Nah. Mm. 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 One more like that. That was fucking sweet. Might have to do 3 more. Or no, 2 more, I mean. Move. Okay. Ooh. Now, here's my question. Do I do 1 more, or do I think that's enough? Let me think for 1 second. Because I might want to do 1 more. I guess we'll find out in 0.0 seconds. Let's go nuts with the 60s. So, nuts in a controlled way. 60 isn't out of my realm of normal sets. 70 would be going a little crazy. Yeah. Oh my god, okay. Oh. Ooh. 1 more. That was a good controlled one. 0 swinging. Gosh dang it. Oh my god, okay. Let's do some preacher next. That was good though. And like, I mean, it's such an argument now. Well, should you do every set controlled or every set a little nasty, or what's the real trick? Dude, get a pump, feel your biceps. Who gives a fuck if a movement is like specifically following this movement path? Like, if I'm not saying don't listen to like these scientific tips. In no way am I saying that, because I mean, it's true. There's a science to it, of course. But, dude, are you going to deny someone a pump if they got it from a way that doesn't agree with your methods? No, man. And you as a lifter should be responsible for at least knowing, okay, I'm doing something that's going to work for me, or I'm doing something that does not work. Now, usually if that's the case, the guy doesn't know it. That's the real issue here that I think needs to start to be solved. But let's do some preachers. dumbbell though. At least I think. I think the 40-pound dumbbell is the sweet spot. So let's do some very controlled squeezing reps here. Oh my God. Okay. One more. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. I think let's do something cable related. But arms 99% done. Let's finish with some seated curls, easy bar, and probably, well, strong potential for a drop set. But if I get 15 reps and I'm kind of having to swing to get a few more, that could be it. But after this, let's just say a nasty pose down has already been brewed. This is merely the finishing touches of everything in between. And now I just want to match it with a good song. Okay. Yeah. A little funky with the cable though. I think it no, it's cool. But time to pose down. The veins and everything, goddammit. Alright. Arms sufficiently pumped. Maybe not the craziest one I've ever had. Honestly, I think the last arm pump was a little crazier tricep wise. But buys, I mean, that was 2 dumbbell, 3 preacher, 1 cable, 6 sets. I mean, this is a full-on fucking bicep pump if I've ever had one. So that's all I'm really concerned with. You know, I want to hit them just as hard as I can to thrash them, but there's no need to do fucking fluff junk for no reason. Like another 3 sets of curls, I don't think would do me any good, at least in a stimulus kind of situation. So if you're only going to do so many sets, my goal then is make the sets that I do as nuts as I can fucking get. So that's kind of my thought process there. All right, let's make sure I'm right in the freak zone. Let's see how arms look. Cool. Oh, and then from the back as well, an angle that cannot be oversold. Let me make sure. There we go. No. And one lat spread just for kicks. Oh. So, you tell me, is that an arm pump or what? I'm inclined to say so. Now I have one goal: go home, eat, sleep. There we go. All done, fully pumped, and the freak factor is beginning to increase, especially on that like that double bi shot at the end, where I'm like leaning back. More and more shoulder striations will begin to, let's just say appear. But the real kind of situation of it is it's not like they're appearing out of nowhere. It's more so that they're simply being revealed because the body fat covering them up is now thinning. So it's almost like, having something saran wrapped. Right? The thinner that is, the more detail is going to kind of pass through. So that's whenever you hear guys talk about muscle maturity, usually that's part of it. Because instead of, you don't just get big. Your muscles actually do develop a sort of texture, especially when they're like fully contracted, right? I mean, we see it in everybody's chest when they do like a most muscular or like side chest or anything. Like you can see all these kind of fibers crawling across it. Same thing in your quads, your triceps, and then all sorts of other different kind of muscles as well. But that's more of a I couldn't say exactly what causes that specifically, apart from just like overall muscle growth. But it is just a difference in kind of, really just freakiness. So the bigger you get and the more detailed you get like that, when you get leaner and you're able to show it off, not only when you look at yourself pumped up, you're like, okay, I'm extra big, like this muscle is a little bit larger than normal. If you're lean enough, like I'm talking sub 8% or so, you're going to see all sorts of little striations and fibers. And like, I'm getting excited about my upper chest because right now with the amount of body fat I have separating skin to muscle, I'm not seeing all those fucking textures and everything, but I can feel them. So once those get more open, then I might even have to start doing some of my chest days or just some of my regular lifts in a tank, just because it'll look a lot freakier. But that's for later. That's for later. I think I said this already, but I finished Dexter, and now I don't know what to watch. Everybody's telling me to watch The Penguin, and I think for good reason. Seems pretty good. But other than that, not totally sure. I guess I'll try to pick something. I don't want to just sit and doom scroll on like Instagram Reels. I mean, that's just really rough. Just like, I mean, truly time wasted. At least if you watch a show or something, you get a little bit of a storyline, like you get the gist of whatever. Just sitting on your phone with all the mindless stuff, not awesome. I'm trying to cut down on that. I'm not very, I wouldn't say I'm a prime example of somebody who's killing it with a low screen time average, but I do want to kind of back off on it a touch. But in terms of meals, sparse. Honestly, today was kind of sparse. We were kind of sort of running around a bit. So instead of just doing a regular breakfast, lunch, dinner, more of a fasting until noon or like 2-ish. And then breaking into some oatmeal, some eggs, a little bit of ground beef, mixing some American cheese slices, which just because I like them. But low carb. So that was a very, I had like 90 grams of carbs so far today on the fucking low end. So now that means post-workout meal, I get a few left over. That is kind of the benefit of putting off some of your meals to later in the day, which this is something I can kind of get behind. I mean, I'm sure we've all heard of intermittent fasting, right? It's like, you have an 8-hour eating window or, anything else like that. I don't know if I necessarily... I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend that to everybody, because usually I think what happens is it gets taken to an extreme, and it's like, okay, I'm going to start doing intermittent fasting. But instead of timing out specific meals, it's more so, guys will just basically not eat for all day, or try to go as long as they can without eating, and then, come 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock or whatever, it's like, you just fucking open the floodgates. And now you probably overate, and then you're really screwed because you basically just put yourself in an uncomfortable position, not eating everything all day. And then now you're eating so much that you're counteracting that work. So there is definitely a skill to dieting beyond just like, discipline, like toughing it out, because you can make it easier on yourself. Like with, I forget the way that they say it, but it's like low calorie dense meals, where like finding a calorie smart option with stuff. I'm talking low carb bread. I'm talking like cubed cauliflower like rice packets, where it's like 3 or 5 grams of carbs for the whole thing, but you are eating a whole like spoonful like mashed vegetables, which is very like similar to if you get a little bowl of rice in front of you. I think one of my main goals when I'm trying to diet down that makes it easier for me is, okay, I want to eat food that is going to fill me up, like make me feel full, like I just ate something, but has only like 500 calories. If I can have a 500 calorie like meal for that period of time, like that's going to make me feel not like I need to come into the kitchen and fiend for something out of the cupboard for like 2 hours, then that's perfect. So usually that ends up being some low carb buns, even just a classic ass fucking turkey sandwich. I'm talking turkey, tons of lettuce, mustard, low-fat mayonnaise, pickles, 2 low-carb buns. It's like I just basically filled myself up for 400 calories. Very, very cheap method, at least in terms of like fullness per calorie. So that's why everybody will. If you've ever heard of someone say like, "Oh, this chocolate or this this soup is very rich," the logic there is it's so full of like fats and everything, it's very calorie dense that it hits you kind of hard in your stomach, right? Because you just had what was only 10 bites of something, but it's 900 calories or like 1,000 calories. It's and it can be that easy. One little pint of Ben and Jerry's could be 1,200 calories if you get one of like the more chocolatey or like cookies and cream thing. And I think we can all put down a pint of Ben and Jerry's pretty quick. I'm talking less than a few minutes. And let's say you stuck yourself in a pretty tricky dieting phase all day, you're burning yourself out almost. If you know that that's sitting in the freezer waiting for you, it's midnight. kind of hungry. Uh, all right, I'll come have one bite. I'll come have just a spoonful. Except the spoonful is the spoon from the King Bach vine, and then now that whole thing is fucking gone. And you gotta say to yourself, oh, whoops, I guess today was a refeed. It's but those things can be prevented. So don't get so locked into like, well, if I'm dieting down, that means I have to eat all chicken and rice, and I have to prep every meal and have a. It's like, no, man, you can go about it in an easier way. But it is a hard sell when I hype up all the counting your macros and everything, because it adds complexity. It makes it a chore. You have to count everything. You weigh stuff on the scale. Now you're counting on your phone. But it really is worth it. So I can't stress that enough. If that's your goal, be it weight gain or fat loss, like if you want to bulk up or cut down, there's no easier way. I really feel there's no easier, simpler way than to go about it by counting your calories, because it's simply making sure the amount of fuel you're eating doesn't exceed a certain limit. So if you want to break off from like a regular typical diet with like all just potatoes, rice, vegetables, steaks, like pure just simple foods, which is going to make you feel better. I've come to understand that now after a couple of dirty bulks preceded by this much more clean one. Like, you really do just feel better eating more simple foods. Like, the simpler the ingredients, the better. And it does translate to the training too. But if you want to break off and go have a fucking a double stack from McDonald's one day, and then you count, okay, that was 26 grams of protein, 14 grams of fats, or 22 grams of fats, and then 30 grams of carbs. You can count that in and kind of, go with it. I wouldn't recommend that for every day of a dieting phase, but that is, a good way of looking at it, I feel, because calorically, and this ruffles some like food scientists, like dietitian feathers, and I don't mean to. Like, you are definitely right. 500 calories of McDonald's is absolutely very different than like 500 calories of just pure chicken and rice, no additives, no nothing. I do not disagree with you at all. But calorically, if somebody was trying to diet down, if they had those treats, if they still sneak like a treat, or what these guys will say is like, oh, a cheat meal, but they stay within their calorie limits, they're still going to lose weight. They're still going to make the progress that they're aiming for. So it's kind of just an argument of like rigidity, because if you can still continue to reach your body weight goals, but every so often you have like a food that's not conventionally healthy, but you're eating in a calorie deficit and you're continuing to lose body fat, that means that guy is successfully dieting. And anybody that gets into macro tracking does know what I'm saying. It's I don't want to restate it because I say it all the time, but I swear it's like you see the Matrix, man. You can understand this. You're not just biting into a fucking burger. You're getting some nutrients from this. This is going to kind of run your whole system. So that's a good motivator. Like, okay, what do you want to run it on? And I mean, I've dropped my regular like classic bodybuilding food to treats to like an 80% 20% ratio, and I tell you something, much easier to bulk up, much easier to cut down. So that's another aspect of my training, which is continuing to evolve and kind of magnify towards an actual higher rate of progress. Is the diet is a big part of it too. I think I've got the sleep and the cardio down. Sleep, cardio, and hydration I've got down pretty well, but that some of the training styles themselves, some of the techniques, and the dieting phase, that's what I've been bringing up. And fuck, I'm starting to notice. Maybe not it's now I've got to stop that bulking phase. But this last bulk was the easiest one I've done. Consistent weight gain, consistent dieting, could actually keep getting my food down because it was all just plain meals, very easy to digest, wasn't stressing out my whole system. It's but it's kind of you got to make a mistake to learn from it, and then you get the gist kind of situation. But I have no reason to believe that the next off-season bulk is going to end anywhere below 280, considering the last one got from my previous max weight from 260 to 272. I don't know, man. Maybe I guess that would be sometime next. Actually, that'll be a while. That'll probably be about a year from now when I'll be fully peak bulked. I'm going to keep dieting down for a while, but sometime in probably late summer, early fall, that's when I'll be back to fucking behemoth bulkiness. Though I can save that for later. I'm more excited about the dieting phase right now. So morning weight, I think I've kind of been bouncing around 254, 255 or so. So that was beyond that initial drop. So I think I'll just keep steadily kind of lean it down and go from there. Because I don't need a massive, insane, like starvation, 1,200 calorie diet to lose, to continue to lose body fat. Right now, since I'm going to be dieting for like a 3-4 month period, I just need a steady pound a week, steady 2 pounds a week, or even pound and a half or so. That's kind of what I'm aiming for. And that only needs like a 350 calorie deficit per day. So, not in no way am I. Oh goodness! In no way am I cutting the calories like a fucking, like an inmate or something. But I do have to make sure I actually stay under that limit consistently. Because if I don't, I just won't lose weight. And that's the reason I hype that up so much is the scale is where the answers lie. But you might not think that because it's like, oh, it's just, what's the scale going to tell me? It's just going to tell me how heavy I am right now. But if you step on the scale and maybe you write it down and you take a picture, and then next week you hop on the scale again, and next week you hop on the scale again, all at the same time, like right in the morning after you go to the bathroom and everything, you haven't drank anything yet, so you don't have artificial water weight, then that's going to show you your progress. Because the scale isn't going to lie to you. If you're still that 180 pounds, or you're that 220 and you're trying to bring it down to 200, if the scale's not changing, then that means something about your approach needs to change. And I don't say needs like I need you to do it. It's like if that's what your goal is, then you kind of, if that's what your goal is, if you want to lock it in for like a 3-month dieting phase winter arc, then dude, I think you owe it to yourself to at least look up how to track your macros, YouTube, watch like 2 videos about it. I don't want to force the subject, right? Because you can't, you can't force things like that. You got to do it because you want to. But I swear, everyone who gets into it sees the benefits, and not only sees like gets it in their mind, but like physically sees the benefits in their build. But it's a little tricky to get into. I will admit. In no way am I saying it's easy. But it is simple. I've said that a couple of times. The working out, the sleeping, the drinking all your fluids, making sure you get hyped up for all your sets, and even the training. Like, it's not necessarily the easiest thing, but it is reasonably simple. Like I would never be able to become like a high-level skier or chess player or or just whatever on my own without any like proper training. But the working out, dude. Go to the gym, go nuts, hit your protein, have a jug of water with some electrolytes in it, sleep more than 3 hours a night, and when you train, like really train like a nut. And guess what? You're probably going to make gains, at least for a while. And then the next step after that is, okay, adjust, right? Make adjustments to your training. Where are your weak points? Where are your strong points? What do you, even get some criticism. Like, what are people saying about your training? Or when you talk to guys in your gym, what kind of consensus are they coming to with certain things? And then you may as well be I love saying this, a goddamn gain-seeking rocket. Because now, instead of just like, I want gains, let's do this routine, whoosh, I'm off, aimlessly. Right? If you're always trying to adapt and like adjust so that your trajectory is where you want it to be, then every time you make an adjustment, you're getting closer and closer and closer. Like you're running, it's almost like you got like an AI system that's constantly like improving. It's the same shit with your training, man. But I think a lot of guys kind of lose that itch to learn more and try to change their training after like a year and a half. Because it's very easy to say, well, I know what I'm doing. It's a little harder to say, okay, I need some help here. I want to hear some tips. I want to hear some advice. I want to hear some critiques, and I want to improve upon them. Like, it's not the easiest thing in the world to say that. But the guys who can are the ones who make adjustments, continue to make gains, continue to have fun, and then just fucking, kill it in general. I think that's a pretty awesome state to be in with some kind of extracurricular, outside of work, school, anything kind of hobby you get into. It's like, if you're into something for long enough, it is fun to just get the gratification of getting better and improving beyond just working out or anything. I mean, your thing could be anything. I think everybody should work out, but working out doesn't have to be everyone's like main obsession, of course. But if it is, dude, if you continue to optimize your training for you, year passes, 2-year passes, you're going to be the guy people are coming up to for advice, because obviously you're putting a lot of energy into it and people notice. Like when there's a guy at your gym who has like, I don't want to say an aura because that's just such a fucking overused word right now, but like they've got a kind of sense around him where he's walking in, he knows what he's doing, he's being serious, and I don't mean in like an intimidating kind of way. I mean like oh, the air has changed a little bit because this guy is really gonna fucking kill it. I've said this a couple times. It's been a little while though. I had a guy like that at my gym that I started at. It was a YMCA. I mean, the same one I still work out at here. But there was a guy named Noah, 6'4", 290, but like 290 is just a regular walk around weight. I mean, the guy was a fucking behemoth. Like I've had some heavy sets of Smith machine or like barbell bench where I like dabbled with the 4 plates, but that's like as heavy as I could even possibly manage. That's like too much weight. This guy is repping that like I can do probably like even 275, just fucking nuts. Always serious, always focused, and every time I'd see that, I'm like, that would get me excited, you know, because if I know he's killing it, he's like, oh, it's probably in a way like, okay, I don't want him to see me do a scrappy side, but you know, it really is motivating to see that kind of stuff. So those are the guys who I like, and most gyms have them. You know, there's a pretty serious fucking gym rat nutcase in every gym across the world. So use them as some nice real world motivation. But leg day tomorrow, I'm gonna venture out again, get some hip press instead of a regular sled leg press. Hopefully have some more hamstring separation veins and go home, rest, and the next day will be chest. Then the next day will be back, and then arms, and then chest, and then back, and then arms, and then legs, and then the cycle will continue. That will continue until the foreseeable future. So let's just keep this train rolling. I'll see you then.